Hey, this is Einstein. This is my good friend Flip today.
Hello.
He's agreed to talk a little bit about his life. He's been a good brother with me for a long time. Good family man, good brother, good husband. So I hope you guys enjoy this story as much as I will. But just to get things started, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you end up in Nashville? What do you do here?
Born and raised in Nashville, actually just outside of Nashville at Hermitage. I've been there all my life. I'm 52 years old. I currently work at the old DuPont plant, been there 23 years. I'm married for 22 years and have two daughters, aged 24 and 27.
Good deal. Yeah. How long would you say you've been a believer?
I'd say all my life. I know people say that loosely, but I mean, I was brought up in a Christian home. My mom was actually an evangelist, and we had church in our home for many years, and so I've always been around the faith. So, not saying I've always walked in the faith and been perfect in the decisions I've made throughout my life, but I've always known God and knew that knew where I was supposed to be, even if I wasn't there at the time.
Okay, so you would kind of say you grew up with a good foundation or kind of good knowledge of who and what God was.
Right.
Okay.
Both mom and dad.
Nice. Would you say there's any pivotal times in your life that really changed your walk or really changed your faith in God?
Yeah.
Or are there just too many to count?
Well, challenges, rough times will show you who you truly are. You think you're one thing until you go through something, and then our tests that we go through. I remember when I was 17 years old, I was working at Walmart in Hermitage, and I was clowning on a forklift, and I flipped it, and I could have died. All practical purposes, I should have died, but obviously God had another purpose for me. I ended up breaking 3 vertebrae off my spine, bruised my spleen and pancreas. Had to learn how to walk again, the whole 9. But I mean, I wasn't crushed, but I mean, I was inches from being crushed.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when you feel that your life is in front of you, flash in front of you, my main thing was I was glad I was alive, but I didn't think I was going to be able to walk. I thought I was going to be paralyzed for the rest of my life at age 17.
Yeah.
So, you promised God the world. You're like, God, if you get me out of this, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll stop doing this, I'll stop doing that. And for him to prove faithful to you, that he brought me through, I had to learn how to walk again, from a walker to crutches to a cane and all of that. And I did straighten up for a while, but I didn't totally straighten up like I promised him I would. So, but another changing point in my life, I would say, was prior to my wife and I getting married. We had our kids before we got married, unfortunately. I don't recommend that, but I always wanted to be faithful, a good person, but had that sexual failing in my life, and like I said, the Holy Spirit always tugging on my heartstrings. You need to stop doing this, you need to stop doing that. If you say you're this, you need to prove it by fruits of your labor, not just by what you say. I was watching TV one day, and whatever show I was watching flashed to a commercial, and the screen went off black, and then these words came up, and it said, "Those that I can't paraphrase it verbatim, but he said something about those that are caught up in sexual sin will burn in hell." And I was like, right then, it convicted me to where I thought that was talking to me, because the words were there. It didn't, a lot of times commercials come up, infomercials come up, and it'll just flash, and you're trying to read, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
But it stayed there long enough for me to read, let it marinate, and realize what it was saying. And then it faded out and went to the next commercial. But I mean, this was like an infomercial. I'm not even gonna say it was an infomercial. It was a godsend. Now that I'm on this side looking back, it hit me deep. So later on that evening, because a lot of times God will send a sign, and then He'll send another sign to confirm that the first one wasn't a fluke. So later on that evening, I was coming from Rivergate, and oh my gosh. As I was coming down O'Hare Boulevard, before I got ready to turn off on my street, I looked up and I saw the perfect, clear cross in the sky that I've ever seen. And it's one of those things where you know what you're looking at. It's almost like a UFO. You know what you're looking at, and you're in so disbelief of what your eyes are seeing. But it was there. I mean, it was just perfect cross in the sky, huge. And I'm like, I'm driving, and I'm looking up at this cross, and I'm realizing that after about what seemed to be, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute, it seemed to be longer than that, I realized that, oh, I'm looking at this cross, and I'm not looking down, and cars are passing me, and I looked down for a split second to see if I was still in my lane, and I looked back up and it was gone. So I don't say this often because it really gets to me. But I was staying with my parents at the time, and I think my daughter might have been. No, I had both daughters at the time. I was staying with my parents, and all I could just think of is that, the rapture came. And those that are truly living for Christ, they're gone. I mean, that's what I was thinking on my way home. I was like 2 minutes from the house, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So I'm thinking, I get home, mom, dad gonna be gone. Everything that you kind of heard and thought and this, that, and the other, you're thinking, oh, I was thinking, this is happening right now. So I bust in the house, and I'm just yelling for mom and daddy, because I just know that, oh God, that I'm here, because I had been doing what I was supposed to be doing. And but they were there, and they're looking at me like, what's going on? What happened? And then I had to tell them about the story. So I mean, I would say that incident, and it's been others, but people say, well, I haven't heard God talk to me, or I have heard Him talk to me, or I'm not sure if what I was hearing was Him or if it was me. No, but I know for a fact. I mean, and for a while I felt bad, because I felt like, why did He have to show me that sign? Am I like Doubting Thomas? Did I have to be shown a hard sign for me to straighten up? But I feel privileged that I was shown that sign, because maybe I wouldn't have straightened up. Maybe I would have just, like I said, I've been always brought up in a Christian home, so I've always known the right way to go. Parents have always modeled it, but I haven't always lived it. But I told my wife, I told my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, I told her, I said, I told her, I want us to get married. I said, we're trying to be faithful. She more faithful than I am, but I mean, that was always my hang up. I mean, never did drugs, never smoked, or did, alcohol and all that kind of stuff. Those weren't my hang ups. Sex was, unfortunately. So that was a turning point, I say, in my life. Not only getting married, but just a pivotal turning point, period. And bringing me closer to Christ, bringing me closer in my walk with God, like I should have been doing it all along. I'm not saying I'm perfect now, but I'm just saying that was a turning point. A serious turning point.
Wow, that's all inspiring. Thanks for sharing that.
I appreciate you. Appreciate having this time to talk with you.
I just appreciate that you feel close enough to want to share that stuff as well, because that's something that makes such a foundational thing for you too.
Like it really shaped a lot of your life, I feel like.
One thing people can't take away from you, they can argue whether God is real or not. You know, just depending on your walk and your experience and what side of the tracks you were brought up on and what was modeled in front of you versus what wasn't modeled in front of you. You know, people kind of got mixed emotions about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But one thing a person can't take from you, whether they agree with, you know, religion or not, because I have coworkers, you know, that I've tried to witness to, and they say, well, that's not my religion, that's not my religion. You know, they find being a good person, this, that, and the other, but they don't want to talk about God, they don't want to talk about this, that, and the other. It's, you know, that's their thing, that's not my religion. You know, I believe in a higher power, but that's not my religion. But one thing people cannot take from you is your experience.
Yeah.
That's your testimony.
Yeah, they can't take your story.
They can't take your story. What happened to you, happened to you. Maybe it didn't happen to them, but yeah, that'll always be real to me. And no matter how many years go by, and like I said, I've been married 23 years, so this was 24, 25 years ago that this happened. Because we got married the following year. This happened in the fall of 1999. And we got married the following year in 2000. So it's been that long, but it is as real today as it was the day it happened.
Yeah.
I know it happened.
Yeah.
I know it happened. And, you know, nothing's going to fog my mind into thinking, well, was the clouds kind of shaped? You sure you saw what you saw? Was it not just kind of
try
the
to
sun
reason
going
out
down?
of it?
Yeah, you try to reason out of it, but you remember all the discipline whippings you got as a child.
Yeah.
You may not be feeling the pain and the strikes now, but you remember them, and they're real. So I mean, this is as real as those are. So yeah, but
that's why I enjoy hearing your story, hearing other people's story, because you really get a glimpse of like God's work through people's lives. Because you can read the Bible, you can memorize verses, which is something I think everyone should do to feel closer to God. But like you can't replicate people's stories like that. And I think that's always amazing. Okay, all right. Let's end on a more funny question. Like, what's been your favorite bike so far?
I would say my Suzuki GSXR 1000.
Oh, okay.
Started off
That was
as,
interesting.
and it's still a fun bike. I mean, it's a sports bike. It's fast and kind of trendy looking. I got a real wide back tire on it. But in 2016, a lady hit me almost head on my first Suzuki bike, and I mean, it was as close to being head on as you could possibly get hit. Broke my front wheel. It was in pretty bad shape, but I bought another one. That's Bulldog.
Which one of you are the meanest?
I think the guy that just stepped in the picture. The one they call Bulldog.
He used to be.
He used to be. Okay.
All right. Well, Flip, thanks for joining us again. I guess everyone, they get to say hi to Bulldog while we say bye, but thanks again, brother, just for sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate you.
Anyway, I hope you guys just enjoy all our stories and y'all stay blessed.